You can hear them before you can see them. Hooves, hundreds of them. The flat thunder of iron wheels grinding over packed sand, rolling toward your back, and there is nowhere to run. Behind you, the most feared army on the face of the earth. In front of you, water. Gray, cold, endless water stretch into a horizon you will never reach on foot. To your left, cliffs. To your right, cliffs. And you are standing in the only gap, with 600 chariots close in the distance, and 250,000 of your own people screaming. This is the morning Israel was supposed to die. Pharaoh has changed his mind. He let them go, and now he wants them back, or dead. It no longer matters which. His chariot corps is the tank division of the ancient world, and he has sent the best of it. The Egyptians can see the slaves now. They can see there is no escape. You can almost feel them slowing down, the way a wolf slows when the rabbit stops running. There is no need to hurry. The trap closed itself. And then a man lifts a stick over the sea. Hold that picture for a second. Because what happens next is not the point of this video. What happens next? The wall of water, the dry seabed, the army swallowed whole. You already know. Everybody knows the Red Sea. Here's what almost nobody notices. In the entire account of that morning, the people of Israel do not fight. Not one of them swings a sword. Not one of them throws a spear. The text says it out loud, and it is one of the strangest military commands ever given. Stand still and watch. Stand still, with the chariots bearing down, and watch. That is the pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. For the next 1,000 years of Israel's history, the same impossible thing keeps happening. The nation is outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded, already by every rule of war that has ever existed dead. And then the deciding blow lands. But it is never struck by a soldier. It is a sea. It is a wall. It is a storm of stones falling out of a clear sky. It is a sound in the dark that no human throat could make. It is a single angel walking through a sleeping camp. This is not a story about military genius. This is not a story about better weapons. This is not a story about bigger battalions. This is a story about what happens again and again when the God of armies decides to do the fighting himself. And there is a name for him in the Hebrew that we usually translate too softly. We say the Lord of hosts. But the word is Sabaoth, Yahweh Sabaoth. And it does not mean a host of angels singing in a choir. It means armies. The Lord of armies, the commander. And in the song Israel sings, the moment the sea closes over Egypt, they call him something even more blunt. They call him Ishmilchama, a man of war. So stay with me, because before we are done, we are going to stand inside 10 battles that should have ended in slaughter and did not. We are going to watch the walls of a fortress city fall without a single ram touching them. We are going to watch the sun stop in the sky. We are going to watch 300 men with clay pots and trumpets rout an army you could not count. And at the very end, we are going to walk into a camp of 185,000 soldiers at sunset and walk out the next morning when every last one of them is dead and no one in Israel even drew a blade. But first, I have to plant one thing in your mind, and I need you to remember it. There is a moment years after the Red Sea when a soldier named Joshua is standing outside a walled city in the dark, And he looks up, and there is a man in front of him with a sword already drawn. Joshua does what any commander would do. He asks the only question that matters on a battlefield. Are you for us or for our enemies? And the answer he gets back is one of the most unsettling sentences in the entire Bible. We will get to it, but not yet. Hold that question. Whose side is the man with the sword on? Keep it, we will need it. For now, go back to the water. The sea comes down on Egypt like the lid of a coffin. 600 chariots, the cream of an empire, gone in the time it takes the tide to turn. And Israel, the slaves, the brickmakers, the people who'd never won anything, stand on the far shore, soaking wet, and watch the bodies of their masters wash up at their feet. The Jewish historian Josephus, writing 1,000 years later, tells the story with a soldier's eye for detail. He describes the Egyptians driving in after the Israelites, the sea returning, the waves and wind tearing the army apart. And then he says something that catches you off guard. He says, not a single Hebrew could explain afterward how they had survived, because none of them had done anything. They had walked. That was all. They had walked, and they had watched, and they had lived. This is where it gets remarkable, because that is the opening verse of a song that runs through the whole Bible. And Israel is going to spend the next millennium forgetting it, relearning it, forgetting it again, and being reminded in ways that get more and more impossible to ignore. So let's count the ways. Let's count every battle God fought for Israel and watch the stakes climb. The next one is a wall. 40 years pass. The generation that walked through the sea dies in the desert. Every one of them. And a new generation stands on the wrong side of the Jordan River, looking at the first thing standing between them and the land they were promised. It is a city. And not just any city. It is Jericho, one of the oldest walled settlements on earth, a fortress wrapped in stone with gates barred and watchmen on the ramparts, and a population that has heard exactly what happened to Egypt and is terrified. By every rule of ancient warfare, you do not take a city like Jericho quickly. You besiege it. You sit outside the walls for months, sometimes years, and you starve the people inside until they open the gates or eat each other. Israel has no siege engines, no catapults, no towers. They are a nation of former slaves and desert wanderers standing in front of a wall they cannot climb and cannot break. And God gives Joshua a battle plan that would get any general in history laughed out of the war council. March around the city once a day for 6 days. Say nothing. Then, on the 7th day, march around it 7 times, and on the 7th time have the priests blow ram's horns and have every man in the army shout. That is the plan. Walk in circles and yell. Now, put yourself on those walls. You are a soldier of Jericho. You have spears. You have boiling oil. You have the high ground and a stone wall thick enough to drive a chariot along the top of. And every morning for a week, the enemy army marches around your city in total silence and then goes home. You do not understand it. You think they have lost their nerve. You think their God has abandoned them. You start to laugh. On the 7th day, they do not go home. They circle once, twice, a 3rd time. The silence is the worst part. Thousands of armed men, and not one of them speaking. By the seventh lap the horns scream, and the entire army of Israel opens its lungs at once. And the wall does not crack. It does not topple in a section. The text says it fell down flat. The whole circuit of it all at once collapsing inward and downward, so that the army did not climb over the rubble or break through a gate. They walked straight up the line into the city, every man before him, over a wall that simply was not there anymore. Here's the part nobody tells you. Archaeologists digging at the site of Jericho found something strange about the collapse of its walls. In most conquered cities of the ancient world, the storehouses are empty. The attackers loot the grain before they burn the place. At Jericho, the storage jars were found full of grain, which fits exactly one scenario: a city taken not after a long siege that emptied the pantries, but suddenly, at harvest time, in a single stroke, by people who were forbidden to take the plunder for themselves because they were. That is the word harem, the things devoted to destruction. Jericho was not Israel's prize to loot. It was the first fruits given entirely to God, the down payment on a promise. The soldiers were ordered to touch none of it, and one man who did, a soldier named Ishan, who buried a robe and some silver under his tent, brought the next battle crashing down on the whole nation. But that is a different story. The point is the pattern. At the sea, the weapon was water. At Jericho, the weapon was sound and stone and a wall that fell at the breath of God. Israel marched. Israel shouted. God did the rest. But it gets stranger because the next time God fights for Israel, he does it with weather. And he does it because a woman refused to go to war without a prophet, and a prophet refused to take the credit. Her name is Deborah, and she is the only female judge in Israel's history. A prophet who holds court under a palm tree, and the people come to her from all over the land. The enemy this time is a Canaanite general named Sisera, and Sisera has 900 chariots of iron. 900. On the flat ground of the Jezreel Valley, those chariots are unstoppable. Israel has no answer to them. They have been oppressed and terrorized for 20 years, and they are afraid to even walk the main roads. Deborah calls a man named Barak and tells him God's command. Take 10,000 men to Mount Tabor, and God will draw Sisera and his 900 chariots out to the river Kishon and deliver them into your hand. And Barak says something that cost him his glory. He says, I will go if you go with me. If you will not go with me, I will not go. Deborah goes, but she tells him the truth. Because of the way you have chosen, the honor of this day will not be yours. The Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. Hold that thought. The hand of a woman? The battle is fought, and here is what God does. Israel charges down off the mountain, and the heavens open. A storm breaks over the valley, the kind of cloudburst that turns a dry riverbed into a torrent in minutes. The Kishon floods, and 900 iron chariots, the most advanced war machine of the age, sink into the mud. The thing that made Sisera invincible on dry ground becomes the thing that destroys him. His own chariots trap his own army. The song Deborah sings afterwards says it without flinching. The stars in their courses fought against Sisera. The river Kishon swept them away. Sisera, The great general abandons his chariot and runs, on foot, alone, the most powerful military man in the region, fleeing across a battlefield in the rain, looking for somewhere to hide. He finds a tent. It belongs to a woman named Jael. She comes out and tells him to come in, do not be afraid, and she covers him with a rug and brings him milk when he asks for water. And he falls asleep, exhausted, hunted, certain he is safe, and while he sleeps, Jael takes a tent peg in one hand and a hammer in the other, and she drives the peg through his skull and into the ground. The honor of the day went to a woman, exactly as Deborah said. Not the prophet, not the general, a woman with a tent peg, and a God who sent the rain. Personal courage, tribal survival, a nation that was afraid to walk its own roads, set free in a single afternoon by a storm no soldier ordered. And we're just getting started, because the armies are about to get bigger. The odds are about to get worse, and the weapons God uses are about to get stranger than anything you have seen yet. But before we go on, let me say one quick thing, because if these stories are landing the way they should, I want you here for the rest. If you are the kind of person who wants the Bible explained like this, the real history, the strange details, the parts your Sunday school skipped, then subscribe and leave a comment telling me which battle has gripped you so far. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people, and I read every single one. Now, back to the impossible, because the next commander God hands a victory to does not even believe he is brave. His name is Gideon, and when we first meet him, he is hiding. There is a famine in the land. The Midianites have been raiding Israel for 7 years, sweeping in like locusts, stealing the harvest, leaving nothing. And Gideon is threshing wheat at the bottom of a wine press, down in a pit, trying to hide the little grain he has from the raiders. He is the least likely soldier you have ever seen, and an angel finds him in that pit and calls him, of all things, a mighty man of valor. Gideon argues. He asks for proof. He puts out a fleece twice, testing God, asking for signs. He is not the hero from the storybook. He is afraid, and he says so, and God uses him anyway. Gideon raises an army. 32,000 men answer the call. And against the Midianite horde, 32,000 is already not enough. The enemy is described as too many to count. Camels without number. An army spread across the valley like sand. And God says, you have too many men. Read that again. Too many. God tells Gideon his army is too large, and the reason is one of the most revealing sentences in the whole Bible. God says, if I let you win with this many soldiers, Israel will brag. They will say, my own hand saved me. They will take the credit that belongs to me. So God thins the ranks. First, he says, anyone who is afraid can go home. 22,000 men leave. 22,000. Now Gideon has 10,000 against an army beyond counting, and God says, still too many. He takes them down to the water and watches how they drink. The ones who get down on their knees and put their faces in the stream, he sends home. The ones who stay standing, who scoop the water in their hands and stay alert and watching, those he keeps. There are 300 of them. 300 men against an army you cannot count. That is a ratio that does not exist in real warfare. That is not a battle plan. That is a suicide note. And God's instructions make it worse because he does not even arm them properly. Each of the 300 gets a trumpet and a clay jar with a torch hidden inside it. No extra swords, no formation, a horn in one hand and a pot in the other. In the dead of night, Gideon splits his 300 into 3 companies and surrounds the sleeping camp. And on his signal, all at once, 300 men smash their clay jars so that 300 hidden torches blaze up out of the darkness at the same instant. And they blow 300 trumpets and they shout, "Put yourself in the Midianite camp. You are asleep. It is the middle of the night." And suddenly the darkness on every side of you erupts into fire and the scream of trumpets. And your half-awake mind does the only math it can. Trumpets mean officers. 1 trumpet, 1 company. 300 trumpets means 300 companies. An army of tens of thousands has surrounded you in the dark. The camp panics. And in the chaos, in the black confusion of men grabbing for swords they cannot see, the Midianites turn on each other. The text says, "The Lord set every man's sword against his fellow. They slaughter themselves. By dawn, an army beyond counting has destroyed itself, and 300 men with broken pots are still standing." Here is what most people miss about Gideon. The whole design of that battle, the thinning of the army, the absurd weapons, the win without a fight, is built around one purpose, so that no one could ever say, "They did it themselves." God engineered the victory to be unclaimable, and that is the pattern getting louder. Now here's the part nobody tells you about the strongest man who ever lived. His greatest victory came on a day his own people tied him up and handed him to the enemy, Samson. You know, the hair, the lion, the haircut that ruined him. But look at the actual battle. The Philistines are ruling over Israel, and they come to arrest one man, Samson, and 3,000 men of Judah, 3,000 of Samson's own countrymen, are so beaten down, so afraid, that they come to him and beg him to let them tie him up and turn him over. They would rather surrender their champion than risk a fight. That is how broken Israel has become, and Samson lets them. He lets them bind him with new ropes and carry him down to the Philistine camp. The enemy sees him coming, helpless and roped, and they roar in triumph. And then the text says, "The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him." That is the phrase that follows Samson everywhere. The Spirit rushing on him like a breaking flood, and the ropes on his arms turn to burned flax and fall off. And Samson looks down, and the only thing within reach in the dirt is the jawbone of a dead donkey. He picks it up, and with the jawbone of a donkey, one man, one bone, no army, no blade, he strikes down 1,000 armed Philistines, 1,000 men with a bone. By the one man the entire nation had already given up on. And here is the beat that sets Samson apart from everyone else in this video. When it is over, he is dying. Not from a wound, but from thirst, alone on a hill of bodies. And the mightiest human being who ever lived cries out to God like a frightened child, "I am about to die of thirst." And God splits open the rock and water comes pouring out, and Samson drinks and lives. The strongest man on earth could shatter 1,000 soldiers, but could not get himself a drink of water. Even Samson's strength was never Samson's. And here's where the pattern shrinks down to almost nothing. Because the next time God breaks an army, he does it through two men. Just two. Saul is king now, and the Philistines have Israel pinned down so completely that there is not a single blacksmith left in the land. The Philistines have banned them on purpose, so that the Israelites cannot forge swords or spears. On the morning of the battle, the text says, in the whole army of Israel, only the king and his son have a real weapon between them. Everyone else is going to war with sharpened farm tools. That is how hopeless it is. And Saul's son Jonathan looks across a deep rocky pass at a Philistine outpost, and he turns to the young man who carries his armor, and he says one of the bravest sentences in the entire Bible. Come, let us cross over to these men. It may be that the Lord will work for us. For nothing can stop the Lord from saving, by many or by few. By many or by few. He has just done the same math David is about to do, the same math Gideon learned in the wine press. The number does not matter. The Lord is the number. So the two of them, two men, one sword between them, climb down into the pass and up the far side, on their hands and knees, scrambling up a sheer rock face in full view of the enemy. Think about how insane that is. Two men attacking a fortified garrison by crawling up a cliff toward it. They agree on a sign. If the Philistines call down for them to come up, that is God's green light. The watchmen see them coming and laugh and shout the worst thing they could have shouted, "Come up here and we will teach you a lesson." And Jonathan says one word to his armor bearer, "Climb. The Lord has given them into the hand of Israel." Two men reach the top, and they begin cutting the outpost down. And then God does his part. The ground starts to move. An earthquake rolls through the camp, and a terror falls over the whole Philistine army. The text calls it a trembling sent from God. In the shaking and the panic, the soldiers cannot tell friend from enemy, and the entire host begins to come apart, scattering, striking at shadows, striking at each other. Two men, one sword, and a God who shook the earth, and an army dissolved. Pay attention to this, because it is the pattern again, boiled down to its smallest possible form. The fewer the people, the clearer the point. One sword in a whole army, two men on a cliff. And the moment they moved, the ground itself rose up to fight for them. Personal, tribal, national, and the stakes are still climbing. Because the next battle is not fought by an army at all. It is fought by a teenager with a sling in front of two nations holding their breath. You know his name before I say it, David. But strip away everything you think you know and look at what is actually standing in that valley. The Philistines are on one hill, Israel is on the other. And between them in the valley comes out a man so large that the Bible measures him, and the soldiers who saw him could not believe their eyes. Goliath of Gath, over 9 feet tall by the oldest readings. His armor alone weighs more than a grown man. The iron tip of his spear weighs as much as a small child. He has a shield bearer who walks in front of him just to carry the shield, because Goliath's own hands are full of weapons. And every morning for 40 days, this giant walks into the valley and screams the same challenge across to the army of Israel. Send me one man, one. We will fight. And whoever wins, his people win. And the whole army of Israel, including King Saul, who is himself a head taller than any other man in the nation, shrinks back in terror. For 40 days, nobody moves. Nobody answers. The most powerful king in Israel hides in his tent, while a giant calls his God a liar. And a shepherd boy, too young to be a soldier, comes to the front lines carrying bread and cheese for his older brothers, and hears the giant and is offended. Not afraid. Offended. He says the thing nobody else will say: who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? There it is again. The armies of the living God. Yahweh Sabaoth. Saul tries to put his own armor on the boy, and it does not fit. David can barely walk in it. So he takes it off. He goes down to the brook and picks up 5 smooth stones, and he walks out into the valley to face a war machine that has been killing men since before David was born. Goliath looks at the boy and is insulted. He curses him. Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks? And David says the words that are the whole point of every battle in this video. You come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and all the earth will know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly will know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's. The battle is the Lord's. He says it out loud, in the valley, before he throws a single stone. And then he runs at the giant. The boy runs toward the thing every grown soldier has been running from for 40 days. 1 stone leaves the sling, and it strikes Goliath in the one place his armor does not cover. And 9 feet of Philistine falls face first into the dirt. David takes the giant's own sword and finishes it. And the Philistine army, who staked everything on their champion, breaks and runs. 1 boy, 1 stone, 2 armies, and the deciding blow struck by the smallest person on the field, in the name of the God of armies. Now watch what happens next, because the armies are about to reach a size that sounds invented. Before Jehoshaphat ever took the throne of Judah, his father Asa sat on it. And out of the south came an army led by a commander named Zerah, and the number the Bible puts on it is 1,000,000 men, 1,000,000 with 300 chariots, the largest force named anywhere in Israel's history. Against it, Asa has a fraction of the soldiers, and Asa prays a prayer so short it would fit on a coin. He says, Lord, there is no one but you to help, between the mighty and the weak. Help us, O Lord our God, for we rest on you, and in your name we have come out against this multitude. O Lord, you are our God. Do not let mere men prevail against you. Do not let men prevail against you. Notice he does not even call it Israel's fight anymore. He puts it on God's name, God's reputation, as if to say, this is not my battle to lose. It is yours to win. And the text says, the Lord struck the enemy down in front of Asa and Judah, and 1,000,000 men broke and ran, and the victory was credited to the Lord of armies, the God who has been winning these the same way since the sea. Now hold on, because we are about to step into a battle so strange that the weapon God uses is a choir. Years later, a king of Judah named Jehoshaphat gets word that 3 nations have allied together and are marching on him: Moab, Ammon and the people of Mount Seir. A great multitude, the messengers say, and it is already close. Jehoshaphat is afraid, and the text says something I love about him. He was afraid, and he set himself to seek the Lord. He does not pretend he is not terrified, he is honest about it. And he gathers the whole nation and prays one of the most desperate prayers in Scripture. He says, "We have no power against this great company that is coming against us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you." We do not know what to do. A king, in front of his entire kingdom, admitting he has no plan. And into that silence, the Spirit of God comes on a man in a crowd, and he says, "Do not be afraid because of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but God's. You will not need to fight in this battle. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still." There it is again. The exact command from the Red Sea 1,000 years later. Stand still and watch. And here's what Jehoshaphat does. And it is one of the most insane military decisions ever recorded. He puts the singers in front, not the soldiers, the worship choir. He sends men out ahead of the army to sing, and the song they sing is one line. "Give thanks to the Lord, for his mercy endures forever." They march toward 3 armies singing, and the moment they begin to sing, the text says, the Lord set ambushes against the enemy. The 3 invading nations turn on each other in confusion. Ammon and Moab destroy the men of Mount Seir, and then turn and destroy each other. By the time Judah reaches the high point that overlooks the valley, there is no battle left to fight. There are only bodies as far as they can see, and so much plunder it takes them 3 days to carry it away. Stay with me because I told you about the woman who said, "We do not know what to do," and Jehoshaphat learned it the easy way by asking. The next king in this video is going to learn it the hard way, with an angel standing in his bedroom doorway. But first, the open loop. The man with the sword. It is time. And before we go there, the same thing I said before one more time, because we are heading into the most intense stretch of this whole story. If this is feeding you, comment the name of the battle you would have run from fastest, and share this with the one person you know who needs to hear that the fight in front of them might not be theirs to win. All right, the man with the sword. Go back to Joshua, standing outside Jericho in the dark before the walls fell. He looks up and sees a man with a drawn sword, and he asks the only question a commander knows how to ask. "Are you for us or for our enemies?" And the man answers, "Neither, neither." Read that and let it land. The commander of the army of the Lord has come, and Joshua asks whose side he is on, and the answer is, "You have asked the wrong question." The Lord did not come to take sides. He came to take over. He is not the biggest weapon in Joshua's arsenal. Joshua is a soldier in his, and Joshua understands instantly. He falls on his face. And the commander tells him to take off his sandals because the ground he is standing on is holy. The exact words God spoke to Moses at the burning bush. The same presence, the same voice, the man of war and the I Am, standing on a battlefield, telling a general that the real question was never whose side God is on. The question is whether you will get behind him. That is the open loop resolved. And it is the key that unlocks the last battles, the biggest ones, Because once you understand that the commander was there the whole time, the impossible stops being impossible. It starts being inevitable, which brings us back to Joshua on the longest day in human history. After Jericho, Joshua makes a treaty with a city called Gibeon, and 5 Amorite kings unite to punish Gibeon for siding with Israel. 5 armies marching on one city in the night. Gibeon sends word to Joshua, and Joshua does something brutal and brilliant. He marches his men all night uphill and falls on the 5 armies at dawn when they least expect it. God throws the enemy into a panic. And as they flee down the pass, God opens the sky and rains down stones, great hailstones. And the text says plainly that more men died from the stones falling out of heaven than died by the swords of Israel. But the enemy is still fleeing, and there is not enough daylight left to finish them. So Joshua does the thing that should be impossible. In front of his whole army, he speaks to the sky. Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon, in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stopped. The text says it stayed in the middle of the sky and did not hurry to go down for about a whole day. And then it adds the line that makes you put the book down. There has been no day like it, before or since, when the Lord listened to the voice of a man. For the Lord fought for Israel. For the Lord fought for Israel. The whole video in 5 words. Now the stakes go cosmic. Now we step into a story where the battle is not against an army you can see at all. A king of Aram, Syria, is at war with Israel. And every time he plans a secret attack, the prophet Elisha somehow knows about it and warns the king of Israel. The Syrian king is furious. He is convinced there is a traitor in his camp, until someone tells him, it is no traitor. It is the prophet Elisha. He knows the words you speak in your bedroom. So the king sends an entire army by night to surround one small city, Dothan, to capture one unarmed prophet. And in the morning, Elisha's servant wakes up, walks outside, and sees it, horses and chariots, and a great army, ringing the city on every side. And he panics. He runs back to Elisha and says the most human thing, "Alas, my master, what are we going to do? We do not know what to do." The same words, the same terror, and Elisha is completely calm. He says, "Do not be afraid. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And the servant looks around. There is no one with them, just the 2 of them and an army at the gates. And he must think the old man has lost his mind. So Elisha prays one of the great prayers of the Bible. He does not pray for an army. He prays, "Lord, open his eyes that he may see." And God opens the servant's eyes. And the hills around the city are full of horses and chariots of fire. An army of fire surrounding the surrounding army. It had been there the whole time. The servant just could not see it. That is the secret behind every battle in this video. The chariots of fire were always on the hills, at the Red Sea, at Jericho, in the valley with David. They were always there. The only thing that ever changed was whether someone's eyes were open. And now, the last one, the biggest, the one where God does not even need an army of fire. He needs one angel and one night. The Assyrian Empire is the most terrifying military force the ancient world has ever produced. Their king, Sennacherib, has already swept across the region like a flood. swallowing nation after nation. And now he turns toward Jerusalem and the little kingdom of Judah, ruled by a good king named Hezekiah. Sennacherib's army is enormous, professional, and undefeated. His commander stands outside the walls of Jerusalem and shouts up to the people in their own language, mocking them, mocking their God. He says, "Where were the gods of all the other nations I destroyed? Did any of them save their people from me? What makes you think yours will?" And he sends Hezekiah a letter, full of the same threats. And Hezekiah does something you have seen a king do once already in this video. He takes the letter into the temple, and he spreads it out before God, and he prays. He admits the truth, that Assyria really has destroyed all those other nations, that their gods really were nothing. And then he says, "Now, O Lord our God, save us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you alone are God." So that all the earth may know, the same reason David gave in the valley, the same reason at the Red Sea. It was never only about survival. It was about who gets to be known as God. The prophet Isaiah sends Hezekiah God's answer, and it is pure defiance. God says of the great Assyrian king, "He will not come into this city or shoot an arrow here, or come before it with a shield. By the way that he came, by the same way he will return. For I will defend this city to save it." And then comes the verse. One sentence. "And the angel of the Lord went out and struck down in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when people arose early in the morning, there were the dead bodies, 185,000, in one night, by one angel. Sennacherib, the undefeated, the conqueror of nations, wakes up to a graveyard where his army used to be, and he turns around and goes home in disgrace. And the Bible says he is later murdered by his own sons in the temple of his own God, the God who could not save him. Now here's the part that should put a chill down your spine, because we can check it. Sennacherib left his own record of this campaign, carved into clay, and we still have it. It is called the Taylor Prism, and it sits in a museum today. On it, Sennacherib brags about everything he conquered in Judah. He boasts that he shut up King Hezekiah in Jerusalem, like a bird in a cage. Like a bird in a cage, his own words. And then the prism goes quiet. Because in all his boasting, Sennacherib never claims he took the city. The most prolific bragging king in the ancient Near East, who recorded every fortress he ever broke, somehow forgot to mention conquering the capital he had just bragged about surrounding. He could not mention it, because it never happened. His own monument confirms the silence at the exact spot where the Bible says, "An angel walked through his camp," and there is more. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing from outside Israel entirely, with no reason to flatter the Bible, records a strange tradition that Sennacherib's army was destroyed in a single night by a disaster sent from heaven before they could fight. Two enemy sources, one from Assyria, one from Greece. Neither one of them friendly to Israel, and both of them, in their own way, leave a hole in the shape of an angel. This is not a story about military genius. This is not a story about luck. This is not a story about exaggeration around a campfire. This is a story carved in enemy stone, that an empire died in its sleep and could not say why. Now let me bring this all the way home to you, because I know that for most of you, the battle in front of you is not an army on a hill. It is a diagnosis, a bank account, a marriage that is coming apart in slow motion, a phone call you're afraid to make. It is the middle of the night and you are lying awake and you have done the math and the math says you lose. Everybody knows that feeling, the thing where you are standing at the edge of the sea with the water in front and the chariots behind, and there is no version of the next 24 hours where you come out alive. You are Gideon at the bottom of the winepress. You are Jehoshaphat saying out loud in front of everyone who is counting on you the most honest words in the Bible. I do not know what to do. And I want you to notice something about every single battle we just walked through. In not one of them did the people win because they were strong. They won the moment they stopped pretending they could win. Israel at the sea did not fight. They stood still. Gideon did not bring more men. God sent them home. Jehoshaphat did not make a plan. He said, "We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you." The choir went first. The shepherd boy said, "The battle is the Lord's." Every single time, the victory began at the exact moment a human being ran out of options and looked up. The chariots of fire are on the hills around you right now. The only question is the one Elisha prayed, whether your eyes are open enough to see them. So here are the 3 things I want you to carry out of this video. The first one is the pattern, and it is just a fact. Across 1,000 years and 10 impossible battles, God arranged every victory so that no human being could take the credit. The water, the wall, the storm, the trumpets, the stone, the choir, the hail, the fire, the angel. He did not save Israel with sword and spear on purpose every time so that all the earth would know exactly who the God of armies is. The second one is for you, and it is this. The battle in front of you may be the exact size God needs it to be. Gideon's army was not too small. It was too big, and God made it smaller until the only possible explanation for the win was God himself. If your situation feels impossible, you may not have a problem. You may have a front row seat. And the third one, the man with the drawn sword is still standing there, and he is still answering the same way. When you ask him whose side he is on, he does not say yours. He never said yours. He says, "Take off your sandals. Get behind me." The ground you are standing on in the worst night of your life is holier than you know. Because the commander of the armies of heaven did not come to join your fight. He came to fight it. And he has never, not once in 1,000 years, not at the sea or the wall or the valley or the silent camp full of the dead, he has never lost. So tell me down in the comments, which of these battles would have broken you first? The sea with the chariots at your back? The giant for 40 days? Or the night you went to sleep surrounded by 185,000 soldiers, not knowing you would wake up to find every one of them already gone? Tell me below. I read every one. And the next time the math says you lose, remember the choir went first. Remember the boy ran toward the giant. Remember that the Lord is a man of war, and the battle was never yours to win. It was always his.